Hi, I'm Susan Kennard, and welcome to the Spiritual Awakener podcast. This is a podcast where I have the honour to talk to people, to interview them, to understand them, and to hear about their amazing spiritual awakenings that led them to help you, the collective. We are a soul having a human experience, and it's our job to remember that, to remember who we truly are on this journey. We've all had awakenings, but sometimes we just forget that they are awakenings. Sometimes we feel that they are something awful that happened to us, something really difficult, and we stay in that trauma of that experience without seeing it as an incredible opportunity for expansion. So I'm excited to introduce you to my next guest because he has been named the soul archaeologist. Now, if you think about those two words, the soul, which we've just spoken about, and archaeology, I'll let you feel how you feel when you experience his story and what he has to offer you. So, welcome, Ken Stone, this soul archaeologist, to the Spiritual Awakener podcast. Thank you for being here. I'm really looking forward to our conversation. So, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, Susan, it's wonderful to be with you. I guess a little background on me. I followed the traditional route that every spiritual messenger follows, and I worked professionally as a sound engineer, and then as a mortgage lender, and then
That's so
one
funny.
one day in the fall of 2007, I attended an in residence meditation retreat that I just felt strongly guided to be at. I think I was at that point in my journey in my life where if something scared me, instead of trying to step away from it, I pursued it. I addressed it head
Wow.
on.
Feel the
And
fear and do it anyway, right?
exactly. It was it was such a liberating series of dynamics that really transformed my life on a profound level. And so I went to this in residence meditation retreat, and I just felt drawn to be there, but I didn't know any of the details of the retreat. I just thought I should go do this thing. And so right before I left, my assistant in my mortgage practice is saying to me, "Hey Ken, do you know you're going to be in silence for 5 days?" And I'm like, "What?
Wow.
I don't think I can do that.
You didn't
You're
look at
not
the
going to."
fine print.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna do yoga. I'm like, wait a second, I don't do yoga. You're not gonna eat meat for 5 days. I'm like, what? So anyway, I went off. I did the retreat,
Funny.
and at the closing meditation, a person wrote on a piece of paper that I was randomly paired up with, "You should be working as a healer." And so that is how I consciously became aware.
Oh, I think we've got a problem. So I think the internet just went on that, but I'm just going to keep going with it, just in case we can get Ken back. So when we're thinking of these experiences that happen to us in our life, Ken was just explaining there that he literally was a mortgage advisor. He really wasn't particularly spiritual in his life. And he then found this part of himself where, he literally found himself drawn to go on this meditation retreat. He didn't even look at the finer print and the finer details. Oh, we've got him back. The finer details of what that meditation was about. And we get drawn to these aspects. Ken, it's great to have you back. So I just talked a little bit about, how we get drawn to, our soul is guiding us all the time
Mhm.
to these places. So carry on, so this retreat.
Yeah, yeah. So
Mm,
we come out of silence, and this guy says, "You're going to discover you've done this in many prior lifetimes, and this is more natural than breathing for you."
yeah,
And I started crying again, while my rational mind was thinking, "Is there a psych ward for you, friend? Like, what are you talking about?
yeah,
Previous lifetimes and more natural than breathing. And then I hired him a few days after Christmas of that year of 2007 to do an intuitive session with me because, life was transforming. And I thought, what's going to happen? What's this guy talking about? And
It's
in
the
that,
thing, Ken. I just want to
yeah,
say that's the thing, right? I wrote a bit of this in my book as well. Once you open the door to
yeah,
spirit, once you open the door, I was reading this morning when I was
yeah,
editing it. I was like, yeah, once you open the door, there's no going back, right? And so
no
I
going
think it's
back.
beautiful that you chose to listen to that person that said,
Oh, yeah.
actually, you've done this many times before. So carry on.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear this.
Oh no, I mean there is no going back. Even though often once we open that door, we think, I want to go back. I don't want to do this,
Sometimes, yeah.
It's it
Mm,
opens an opportunity, I guess, in retrospect for incredible integration, and the
yeah.
separate self gets queued up and all these extraordinary dynamics open up. But anyway, in that guided or in that
Session that you
session,
had. Mm.
yeah, I'd never done one before in my life. And I mean, I spent my adolescence in Boulder, Colorado, which is lots of street cred for that kind of thing, but I never felt any attraction to it at all. So anyway, there were three things that he said that I really took away from our time together. This is more natural than breathing for you, as I already said, but you know what you're doing. You don't need to be trained. Just go do it. And
Yeah.
so I thought, I mean, for whatever reason, I listened to that. And on the 1st of January, somebody I was with in person had a really bad migraine headache. And I said, hey, apparently I'm a healer. Can I put my hands on your head? I had no idea what I was doing. Put my hands on their head, and my hands and feet started buzzing
Mm-hmm.
really strongly, and the headache went away. And I thought, oh my goodness. And so from there, I just started kind of following guidance, I guess. I mean, things just sort of landed in my lap.
Yeah.
One of my roommates from the retreat called me up, and he asked me what I'm up to. And I say, hey, apparently I'm a healer. And, and all of a sudden he's got a problem he can't address. And I
Yeah.
work with him, and all of his stuff heals within 24 hours. And he describes it as the deepest spiritual experience he's ever had in his
Wow.
life. And he traveled with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. I mean, it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
like, what? I mean, how could this
Mm-hmm.
experience be the deepest thing for you? So
But I
anyway,
think
that was the
sometimes
beginning.
what I really love about that is almost like the innocence,
Yeah,
because, who better for spirit to wake up, yeah, than
right.
someone who is like totally not the type of person that you would think, the job that you did and the fact that you were never interested in it.
Right.
And similar to me in a way that, I was an analyst, I was a psychologist, I was,
Right.
a psychotherapist. I certainly was not looking at the soul, not that I knew. And
Right.
so the way awakening things that happen are where it's almost like we've chosen, and I know, you're going to talk about this, but we've chosen that time. I was 26, 27. How old were you?
I was 37.
Yeah, so you were a bit later, but I was
Yeah.
like 26, 27, which is kind of like a Saturn return in astrology and quite a pivotal moment. And it that time I resisted it for such a long time. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
kind of like, you were obviously really ready to step into it and say, you know
Yeah.
what, actually, firsthand I can see this. And with me, and if you're listening to this and you've had these experiences and you haven't actually acknowledged how amazing you are as a channel or as someone that is here to spread your light with the world, think about those times. As Ken's going to speak more about this, but think about those times where something happened and you're like, well, I can't explain that, and that's definitely, what happened to me as a scientist, as an analyst, as a left brainy person. I had to open the right side of my brain, as did Ken, because he was, mortgage person and, probably money minded and everything. And he had to open the right side because that is about the balance of life. Yeah. So bringing that energy through, and we are divinity ourselves. So Ken, carry on because it's a great story.
Yeah. Well, I guess the thing to say about it is that, I had a couple of, so the roommate experience it was actually a little bit like a 2x4 to the head to me, because
Mm,
it was, although I'd heard what Lynn said in the session, I didn't really understand it. I didn't comprehend it at all.
mm,
And then a buddy of mine, we went out to lunch, and I was telling him, here's what's going on in my life. And I thought, well, I'm just going to go for broke. And I said, apparently I'm a healer. And it turned out his wife had been bit by a cat. She's a veterinarian the day before. And he said, can you heal her? And I said, I have no idea. I mean, let's see what happens. At the time, I didn't understand permission and the role of permission. And
yeah.
so after lunch, I went out and sat in my truck at the restaurant. And at the time, I would sort of convulse uncontrollably when I was working on somebody. And so,
Wow.
I mean, probably the truck is sitting there rocking in the parking lot as I'm working on this guy's wife, unbeknownst to her. And we made an agreement, we'll talk the next day and see what happens. And so I worked on her for, I don't know, 20 minutes. My hands and feet start buzzing. And I think, oh, well, that's probably it, and then I go back to the mortgage office and start doing loans for
Just,
the rest of the
yeah.
day.
Yeah.
And and he calls me up the next morning and he says, yeah, I asked her, and she thought, around 1:15 or 1:30 her thumb started feeling better, which was exactly when I was working on her. But we were sort of like giggling like two teenage boys talking about asking a girl out on a date or something. It was like we wanted to pretend it wasn't real. It was like,
Yeah.
okay, whatever, like that can't be.
That's crazy. That's
Yeah, that's
crazy.
nuts.
Surely that can't be. Yeah.
Yeah, it can't be true.
Because
Like
that blows everything out of the water as well.
Right,
Like, I
right.
just want to say that. Like,
Yeah.
we look at the medical model, which we need, and we don't
Right, of course.
we don't claim to heal or cure on that level.
No.
We have to say that as a disclaimer. But
Sure.
we can blow that out of the water and say, well, actually, we may have been brought up thinking that somebody or something outside of us has the answer and they're in a white coat, when actually there are so many healers, and we have our healer within, and
Right.
she was ready to experience that healing from you.
Right,
Yeah.
right, exactly.
So it's a soul decision, isn't it, Ken?
Yeah,
It's like, we don't have to feel like we're stepping into someone's boundaries by offering
Right.
that light or offering that energy, because we're not doing it for them, but we're the channel for it, right?
Right, exactly. And I mean, now I guess I would say my perception is that I'm really not doing anything. I feel like
Exactly.
I'm witnessing something that's already there. The divine presence is
Exactly.
already within everyone and
Yeah.
everything. And
Yeah,
that
I agree.
presence somehow is enlivened by that presence within me, but I'm not sending them anything. I'm not doing anything, and so on.
You're just that conduit for them to heal.
Sure. That's a great way to think of it. So anyway, later in the day, he leaves me a voicemail. It's Friday afternoon in my mortgage practice, and I start listening to the voicemail, and the voicemail sounds something like this. Oh my gosh. This afternoon, the doctor called. It turned out she had been bit on Wednesday, had gone to the doctor on Thursday morning, I think, and they had drawn blood and cultures and stuff because they were really worried about it. And those cultures developed on Friday, and they called her up and said, you have to get to the hospital immediately. And so they rushed to the hospital. The physician unwraps her thumb, and it's completely healed. There's no evidence that there was ever a bite or anything. And my friend his comment is the doctor completely loses it. Like, what the heck's going on here? And I'm listening to this. It even makes me cry a little bit right now when I think about it. I mean, it was both disturbing and profound. I mean, it was like, what the heck is going on here? I mean, it was like, Ken, you cannot just ignore this. And there's something profound happening here. This is incredible. It's actually making my hands and feet buzz right now. So anyway, that was kind of the beginning, it's like, and so then I started thinking, well, what if this isn't real? What if I can't replicate this? And so I spent probably about 2.5 years trying to figure out, like, working on people all over the world. It was all remote work. It was none of it was hands-on. And and it wasn't like I was putting my name out. I mean, I went on Twitter, but I hid my identity. I did the opposite of what most people do on social media. I put a website up, but I hid who I was. I made sure nobody could figure out who I was because I thought people would reject me. I thought I'm a freak of nature. Like, what the heck is going on here? You know, I'm a mortgage lender. I'm not like this weirdo healer guy. So anyway, that was the beginning. And then after about 2.5 years, I realized there is really something meaningful happening here. And I think I can accept this and really embrace this and step into my purpose.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the beginning.
And it shows us, and I think you were obviously given, you know, those profound experiences very early on, because like me, I would have believed it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
If I hadn't have seen spirit and all that kind of stuff and known and felt it, and been given that, I never would have believed it, and I wouldn't have gone down that road. So you will have chosen at this point in your life, at 37 in your life, you would have chosen, right, at that point, I'm going to have this awakening, and it's going to be so profound that there's no way I can do anything else, and I'm definitely going to find my way. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
And I was the same, because if I would not have gone down that road.
No.
None of this wishy-washy kind of, you know, I've always known that, you know, none of that had to be bang. And
yeah.
Do you think that that's happening now? Because we're recording this on the 16th of August, 2022. Obviously, people might listen to this years later, but we've gone through a profound awakening, and the 2 and a bit years of awakening.
Yeah.
And it's been profound across the world.
Yes.
Not only are going within, literally physically having to stay within in some cases, but going within on a profound spiritual level. Do you feel that everyone's being fast tracked now? Because I do.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say about it is that, and I think there have probably been events like this in history, but none in my lifetime.
Same.
I don't think, where
not this lifetime anyway.
Let's be clear about that, right? Not in this lifetime. And you know, I just turned 52, so I was born in 1970. In that span of this lifetime that I'm consciously aware of living right now.
So we're the same age, because I'm 52.
Oh, really?
I'm 52.
Oh,
exactly. So, you know, and I think in our lifetime, you know, it was just, I don't know, it's just, I can't remember anything like this. I mean,
for sure.
I think it happens every 100 years or something in a timeline.
Something like that. I think that makes sense. But what happened, in my view, is we individually and collectively had the opportunity to address our unintegrated, disempowered selves. And that aspect of our separate selves is it contains so many profound gifts. And it is, the process of integrating it is quite the journey, as we've been experiencing. And whereas most people go on this journey of integrating the disempowered and unintegrated self privately, here we are doing it collectively. We're doing it individually within ourselves, and there's no escaping it. It's everywhere. Everyone is having the same experience. And the awakening that you're referring to, without a doubt, is being accelerated as a function of that. And of course, people are responding in lots of different ways, right? There's a movement into separation for some folks. There's, yes, this is a clear opportunity for integration. In my view, all of that, whether we step into the illusion of separation further or open into our whole selves, either way, eventually we come to our wholeness, because in my view, that's the role of the illusion of separation. I really see it as God's greatest gift to us as human beings. Here's this opportunity to, as you say, remember, and in my view, also experience who we really are. It's not just the memory of it. We actually have the visceral experience of our embody it.
Embodying it, which is we spoke about before we started recording.
Absolutely.
So that embodying of it is, you know, if you're listening to this, and you know, it's called the Spiritual Awakener, so it might be that this is the first time you've listened to a conversation like this, and welcome if it is the first time, because we sometimes go way out with our conversations, but the key thing about it, and I love that, but the key thing about it is actually we have this physical vehicle, we have this physical body, and this physical body is carrying our beautiful mission and soul. And this physical body, I believe, is always talking to us. And so it is about the barometer, it is about embodying the truth of who you truly are. Because when you do that, I know you know this, I know this, your world transforms, your opportunities, your amazing people you connect with. You feel drawn to do certain things. You feel drawn to go to a meditation retreat you know nothing about. You feel drawn to experience another country. You feel drawn to speak to different people. And this is what happens. And your whole outside world, seemingly outside world, transforms because your inside world is who you truly are as this incredible light just shining out from a human physical being.
Brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like, if we call in this sort of ancient bit of wisdom that, in my view, often gets misinterpreted as above, so below. Most people think we need to make our external lives a certain way in order to bring peace to the inner.
Such a good point.
But I see it in the opposite way, actually. I think when we come to the inner, if we were to read that in wholeness, it seems to me we could say in separation, we perceive what is outside of us as most essential. But as we integrate and come to wholeness, we realize everything is within, everything is in the interior. And there, in that work of integration, opens this light and this life of profound resonance, exactly as you say, beyond anything we can even imagine. I mean, the life that I thought I was living has absolutely nothing to do with us unfolding now. I haven't done a mortgage since the end of 2010. I mean, that has absolutely nothing to do with what's unfolding in my life. And what opens up every day on a regular basis is an extraordinary opportunity, just like we're having right now, to connect with another spiritual messenger, to have a profound connection, to sit in a deeper experience of what is actually real, of that undistorted and pure expression of divine presence that is who we all are. Everyone and everything, no matter what has been done to us, what we've done to others, it's universally accessible. Yeah, beautiful.
And I also feel, from that, linking with that conversation is that we're all finding our soul family.
Yes.
Yeah. So I have a soul family membership that I run, and I watch who comes in, and I'm like, wow, resonance, beautiful resonance. And I, and I can see that, and then I can see who leaves. And it's the same with our friendships. I'm sure you noticed this as well, that when you had that awakening, when you had that awakening that you remembered anyway, I'm sure there were many, but the awakening one that was pivotal for you, did you notice that people came in and people went out?
For sure. Yeah.
And people are noticing this more and more, and it can be a fearful thing that maybe the husband or the wife or the girlfriend or the boyfriend or whoever their partner is, and their work, their work life is like, oh my God, what happened? I lost my job, all of that. And that happens when your frequency shifts, because your frequency shifts because that part of you is like, wow, I am God's source energy. I am true divinity. And so therefore I'm embodying that now. So anyone that is a different frequency that doesn't match that, no judgment ever, but just doesn't resonate with your frequency anymore. That
Absolutely.
can sound ego, though. I want to kind of refine that. Can you refine that? Because it's not about the ego and about anyone being better than anyone else, is it?
No, it really isn't. I mean, just think about it. Like, if you've gone through your life, and I mean, to everyone who is sitting with us and sharing this space with us, if you just think about, like, there are certain parts of your life probably where there's a thinking dynamic that's dominant,
Mm.
right? Lots of thoughts. And then there are maybe other aspects of your life where feelings, where you're in your heart, and that's the dominant perspective. And then maybe there's an area of your life, maybe it's in meditation or prayer or in nature, who knows, listening to music, lots of different places, doing
Yeah.
art and so on, where you're in your hips, where you're embodied all the way into the being expression of who you are.
Mm.
And you probably recognize in the being expression of who you are, there's a natural resonance, and it's profound with certain places and certain people. And the lack of resonance isn't a problem. It's not, but when you're in your thinking perspective, it is a problem. How can
Yeah.
I solve this? What can I do? Or in feeling,
Mm.
this doesn't feel good. But when you're in being, when you're embodied all the way, that
Mm.
natural alignment lights up. And where there isn't natural alignment, it's not even something that gets noticed. It's not a concern.
Mm.
It's not a
Mm.
problem. So it's like if we're shifting from, as we awaken, as we embody, as our souls come home into the corporeal vessel,
Mm.
we're opening to this experience of divine presence and resonance. And
Yeah.
that is enlivened within those we're meant to travel with for as long as we're meant to travel with them.
Yeah.
And that connection feels extraordinary. And it
Yeah.
feels extraordinary in purpose, in terms of, I mean, the way I thought about it and the way it felt to me was, I'm breathing air for the first time in my life when I'm doing this. And then I would think, wait, this isn't what I want to do. This isn't who I am. And then I would think, but I really need some oxygen right now. And it's the same thing with, as you sort of settle into that, it's exactly as you're describing it. It's like this soul pod, this sense of resonance with, that doesn't really make any sense rationally. How do these
Mhm.
people resonate with me? How do we meet each other? But those things they don't really matter anymore. It's
No.
more, here I am traveling with these people that I feel so profoundly connected to.
And I think the
And the
trust
thing is,
as
if we're
well.
really attached, go ahead. Yeah.
I just can see it written in front of me. So my guides are kind of giving me this, and it's like a
Yeah.
big word, trust. And I always
Yes.
believe
Yes.
that the trust that, that you are always guided, that I believe, and, see how you feel about this, but I believe that we have many teams. I work with the
Oh, for
Galactics. I
sure.
work with many teams of guidance. And I believe that 100% we are always guided, but that comes from inner trust. So
Okay.
when we know that, then the whole of our life just goes, well, actually, it doesn't matter what happens, as you said. It doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter. We live in thank you, we live in the present moment. Tolle, he talks about the power of now, doesn't he? But living in that present moment allows you to be present, because you're not always thinking, oh my God, what happens if I don't do that? Or what happens if,
Right.
that person's wronged me? Or what happens if that happens? Or, it's this kind of like fear space. You don't have that when you live in the present moment. You don't switch the news on. And no judgment, right? But why do you need to switch the news on? Yeah. When you
Right.
come from a place of knowing, oh gosh, the guys are really coming strong now. I can feel it all in my on my head. Um, why do you need that when you know that you are always protected, always loved, and you have infinite trust in your path, in the universe, and knowing that you're here for a really important reason? You don't need the news. Why do you need the news?
Well, if you think about it, the separate self, the aspect that is opening the door, right, is
Mm.
facilitating this awakening, it is addicted to drama, right? So, and we can start
And
to see
trauma.
that, and trauma, right? And
Mm.
so, if we look at those sort of I guess you could think of it as like a siren song of drama, of separation, this
Yeah.
trance of separation, and just start to recognize its role is to enliven the separate self to
Mm.
open the door to the whole self. And through the
Yeah.
integration of that, through the
Mm.
transmutation of those aspects held in separation, we open to the whole self.
That's
And things
beautiful.
like news and other things that previously were the most important thing because they were a source of enlivening all of that drama and trauma now become something that's just not important. And it's not a judgment thing. It's
No.
sort of like the relationships, the friendships and the
Mm.
things that fall away and the doors that open. It's more in that being space. There's just this profound peace, this resonance that is nearly impossible to put into language and yet embodied on every level. And the
Yeah.
more integrated it is on the interior, the more we're having an experience of that in every aspect of our lives, no matter what is unfolding out in the
Hmm.
world, right? Out in the
And
world.
boy, things are unfolding out in the world all the
Yeah,
time, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Um,
And it seems to me the recognition here, or the opportunity, is to start to realize everyone is doing exactly what they need to do to
yeah.
integrate, right? So I'm doing what I need to do, you're doing what you need to do, et cetera, et cetera. When we start realizing that, it's
Mm.
like this beautiful divine orchestra, this symphony
Yeah.
that's being played. If we look at it through the lens of separation, it can look like drama and trauma and nothing else. And
Mm.
as we come to our wholeness, we realize there is this beautiful expression that's going on within me and within everyone. And as we awaken, we begin to recognize there's this amazing music being played, and we're participating in all of it with the divine, conducting and writing the score, I suppose, if we want to run with it that way.
And can we help? Because that's a really beautiful way of it explaining it. But what about if you're on your path, you're just on your path, you've just kind of realized you're not just this physical mind and
Right.
body, right?
Right.
You always thought you were, that's how it was. And perhaps your body's been showing you some messages,
Sure.
you've been unwell or something, and you've had this really profound awakening to actually healing and knowing that your thoughts create, a manifestation of things as well in your life. It's more than that, but let's just say, how can we help people? How can What could you say to people that are looking outside of themselves, at their family, making choices that are the seemingly old paradigm of choices, if we're just awakening, right? The
Right.
old paradigm of choices. What can we say to people to help them feel um, less in need to change people? Because obviously
Yeah.
there is that feeling, yeah?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think,
Only from love. It's care and
sure,
love and,
sure, of
you
course.
know, um, wanting
It
everyone to feel great.
Of
Yeah.
course,
Yeah.
the origin of that desire always comes from a loving place. The expression of it can lead to kind of a noisy dynamic, though, right? Because then we get into this thing where, is it sort of an aspect of spiritual codependence? Am I rescuing and so on? And then we get sort of
Yeah.
caught up in the drama triangle, and I was trying to rescue, but now I'm the perpetrator. But wait, I'm the victim.
Mm.
To me, these are all aspects of what I think of as stage one consciousness, this disempowered and unintegrated dynamic. And as
Yeah.
we integrate, we have this opening into the empowered and unintegrated dynamic, which is really profound and beautiful. But also, that makes way to the third stage of consciousness, which is this whole and unintegrated dynamic, meaning we've surrendered and opened up to this expression that is larger than us, but somehow fully expressed in and as and through each of us.
Mm.
And it's only as we go through that journey for ourselves that we begin recognizing each of us are doing exactly what we need to do to integrate. And
Mm.
so instead of it being about trying to focus on, oh my gosh, there's something going on with this family member or this friend is perceiving things or misperceiving things, it seems to me there's an opportunity for each of us to be looking inward. And when that gets animated, that is, I
Yeah.
become agitated because somebody I care about believes something I don't believe or is
Yeah.
approaching some
Mm.
issue in a way that doesn't make sense to me.
Make choices that might not be my choice or
Exactly. my
Yeah.
reaction to them, that's my stuff. And there's an opportunity for me to integrate some aspect within me that is being enlivened by their behavior. And in a sense, we could say, thank you so much for the opportunity
Yeah.
to
Yeah. Yeah.
integrate this, right? Because here comes another aspect of my separate self ready to integrate. And
Yeah.
through that, I have this opportunity to experience my wholeness in greater measure. And
Yeah.
oftentimes, what I hear from messengers is they'll say to me, well, wait a second, I'm doing all that work, but these things aren't changing out of my life. And my response to that is stop looking outside of yourself and
Yeah.
go within, because inside, in the embodied presence of divine, whatever you want to refer to it, it doesn't matter if we call it God,
Yeah.
divinity, or source, or whatever, the
Yeah.
nothingness, the
Exactly.
emptiness, it's irrelevant to me. In that experience in the interior is a sense of love and peace that surpasses any concept of language.
Yeah.
And yet we can experience it. It is available wholly to each of us. And as we
Yeah.
move into that, we begin to recognize where once I saw weeds in the garden, now all I see are flowers in full bloom. Where once I thought there was lack and challenge and strife, now all I see is love and divine presence. And it's not because I flipped a lens on my glasses and chanted a mantra, nothing against those things. It's that I am in the embodied experience of divine presence, and that is what there is. So and in that comes the ability. It's not even an ability, it's just an expression. It's a being
Presence of it.
expression. Yes, to be present, not just with ourselves, but anyone, everyone, and everything exactly where they are, to love them where they are, not to convey something they don't have, not the love of pity, not even the love of acceptance or empathy, the love of divine presence, which is
Yeah.
unconditional and flowing in and as and through everything.
So that leads me to say that, it's be the change you want to
Yeah.
see in the
Sure.
world, which is what Gandhi said, right? So
Yeah.
be the change, be the light, be the change that you want to see in the world, but without trying. Just be.
Right.
It's not like, right, I'm going to be the change that I want everyone to be, right? It's not like that. It's
No,
just
it's
like,
not.
kind of hard to explain, isn't it? I'm just trying to think of how to explain it, but it is. Thank you. It's follow your joy. So
Sure.
I do love it when my guides pop in. So it's following your joy. It's following that part of you that lights up. Like, I'm doing this interview with you, right? I've never met you before. We're having such a co-creation here. We have no, we have intention, of course, to reach people that need to hear the message, but we really don't plan, because we know, and we had a laugh about this at the top, is because we know that it's divinely guided and ordered. So it's like a symbiotic co-creation that's happening in this conversation. And that, to me, is how I see the world. So I see it as, and if I see something and I'm like, oh, I'm not sure about that, I then look within to the
Exactly.
emotion. I'm a trauma specialist, right? So that's kind of my bag. But
Right.
I teach that. But it's looking within to say, oh, what is it in me that
Right.
has attracted that feeling or experience? And so it's my inner work, as you were saying, it's my inner work that transforms that. And boy, taking responsibility for that, Ken, is such a massive part of our journey, isn't it?
It's
Actually
profound.
profoundly healing yourself by taking responsibility for what you attract or don't attract.
Yeah, if you want to think of it this way, there is an experience of absolute embodied wholeness that is always available. It's who we all are.
Mm.
And the experience that isn't that, the experience in separation, it's just the opening to that experience of wholeness.
Yeah.
And if it's difficult to conceive of, like, how do I just be that? Consider this: before you first fell in love, you heard people talking about, maybe you read books, here's what it is to be in love and so on and so forth. And you thought you understood, oh yeah, I got it. I got it. And then you fell in love and you had embodied knowledge of love for the first time. And it was totally different. It wasn't even like in the same, and you were like, whoa, there are stars shooting off, the earth is moving, the heavens are aligning. Oh my gosh. It's like that with divine presence. When we have embodied knowledge of divine presence, that is the experience, the being experience inside, not because we're thinking about something, not because we're feeling it, because we're in the being experience of it. And in my view, that happens through soul embodiment. When we have that experience, all of this idea of being the change in the world, this is the most natural thing. It's like, if I said, you need to think about your next breath, you might think about it, and then you'd think, well, why am I thinking about my next breath? It was just happening naturally anyway.
Absolutely.
Divine expression is this natural expression. It just opens all these things up. It's so profound.
It is profound, as is this conversation. So Ken, let's talk about how you help people, how you are that light in the world, and let's help people find you. So how can people, first of all, how can people find you? Obviously, this will be in the show notes, but how can people find you?
Sure. Well, my website is kenwstone.com, and that's a great entry point into the wonderful world of divine expression as me, I guess, is one way to think of it. And there are all sorts of different resources that are available there.
Tell us about that.
Well, one of the things I realized early on is that there's a credibility gap between saying to people, we're going to have a mystical experience and you're going to have a feeling experience of divinity in your being. And yeah, right, that's not going to happen, right? People are thinking, oh, wait, I don't know what that is, and so on. And so I realized a long time ago, it's essential for me to provide free resources where people can actually experience what I'm talking about. Because without that experience, there's no, it's like, I can take so much on faith. This person
so that's
is
the trust piece, isn't it?
Exactly.
Offering that free experience of your energy. So I have that on my website as well, a free video course, because I just feel like people, they can then introduce themselves to you and feel if it feels resonance. So so your website, and they can go over, and you mentioned to me about a 17-week offering that you have. So
it's called Exploring Divine Resonance, and I taught it last year. I guess it depends on when you're listening to this, but in 2021 I taught it live. And I'm teaching and facilitating on video, so people can see me and see the group participating in the class and so on. And the class is actually delivered through my online learning platform, which is called the Resonance Institute, and it's totally free. So through this 17-week course, it's really like an introduction to the way the divine expresses through me. And some of that is through awareness and sort of structure that I teach. But it's always paired with experience. My feeling is that real transformation can only take place once we have a shift in perspective, and experience is the most profound shifter of perspective, right? Just like falling in love. So in this 17-week program, yes, there are ideas that we're talking about and so on. And there's a trajectory of the course, and it's a robust program. It's 17 weeks long. And along with that, then are a series of what I think of as transmissions or experiences of divine presence. And so through this, and then there's a Q&A, and through the online learning platform, people are always asking questions and comments, and then I'm personally responding to them there. So it's a wonderful introduction sort of to the work, the way divinity expresses through me. And you can find it either on my website at kenwstone.com, or you can actually go to exploringdivineresonance.com, and it just redirects to the opt-in page where you add your name and email address. So
perfect.
Very simple, very straightforward.
Mm,
great way to sort
mm,
of dip your toe in the water and see, hey,
mm.
is this something that might be supportive for me in my
Yeah.
awakening process and as I step in as a messenger and so on?
Wow. That sounds amazing. And so definitely pop over to Ken's website and have a look at that. And then if people wanted to, so they look at that and they, feel into it and they listen to our conversation today. Um, is there another way of working with you? Can they work with you privately? How does
Sure.
that work?
Yeah, I offer a number of different programs, and I teach a virtual retreat series every other week, and
Mm,
I do weekly transmissions and all sorts of different things. And a couple of
mm,
years ago, I woke up one morning, I was having this dream, and I was like, "There's the thing. There's the guidance right there. I have to wake up right now and write this down." And so
mm,
what I did was I created a membership to the Resonance Institute, to my
mm.
online learning platform that basically gives people access to every class that I've taught. So I have taught, there are 6 kind of core programs that I've taught a number of times in
Mm,
the past and that I continue to teach. And
mm,
membership includes those programs, the historical
mm.
programs, the self studies, as well as the live ones, as
Yeah.
well as the live retreat, the live transmission, and all of that. So
Mm,
that's an option for people in terms of engaging with me. And I also do work with a few spiritual messengers one on one.
mm,
And when I'm working with people one on one, I find that I'm looking for it to be really of a profound service to the messenger that I'm working with.
mm, mm,
There needs to be a level of profound resonance when
mm.
we sit together in transmission. And the
Mm.
only way we can figure that out is to actually do a session
Have a
together.
conversation. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm,
and a lot of people I know do, like, here's a free session or kind of thing. But the way I do it is, if somebody's interested in that, I really encourage them to take advantage of the free resources and so on. And
mm,
then through the membership and the platform, there are discounted individual sessions which just aren't
mm.
available on their own.
Yeah.
And so the pathway would be, if somebody wants to work with me, become a member of the Resonance Institute,
Yeah.
take advantage of one of those trial sessions that's
Mm,
discounted there. And
mm.
then if there is that resonance, we're going to know it. And if there is, I'll tell you in that first session, I'll say, oh my gosh, there's really profound resonance here. I'd be open to
Yeah.
working with you on a regular basis. But just be aware, and it's not a judgment at all. It
Mm,
happens very rarely. And
yeah.
the reason I'm saying this is I wouldn't want anyone to feel like it's a problem if there isn't that deep resonance. It's that what I want to be focusing on in my private practice is supporting messengers with whom I feel and experience that deep, deep resonance, who are
Mm,
on this trajectory of stepping out in the world in
mhm.
a big way. And it's not an intellectual thing. It's not a judging thing. I mean,
It's a
my hands and
heart
feet light
thing.
up. I buzz and tingle like God makes it clear,
Mm.
and God
It's a
makes it clear to
heart,
both of us. Yeah. I
heart.
mean, I would say it's even deeper. It's like it's an embodied experience that the Christmas tree lights up and you know it. Like, I know it, you know it, we know it. And when that happens, I just think this is incredible. And here's an opportunity for us to be of profound service to the expression and
Yeah.
opening to that light. So, and there are a lot of people I work with in the context of these circles. We always feel profound resonance there. And then a
Yeah.
few people that I'm working with one on one in
Yeah.
my private practice who are messengers, doing whatever they're doing. Some of them
So
are world
I would
renowned, some of them are
say,
just opening.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. And everyone's like equal, really. It just depends on where
exactly.
you are in your journey, doesn't it?
Exactly.
So if you're listening to this and you have a resonance to work with Ken or just experience his work, pop over to his website. Definitely, all the notes are going to be on the show notes. All the information, all of that information will be there. So don't worry if you missed it; it will be there, and you can definitely contact him. And Ken, any last words? We have to wrap this up.
Yeah.
We could be here for hours, but I do like to keep my podcast fairly succinct.
I
But hang on,
understand.
because I want to talk to you afterwards.
Yeah.
But it. So, what last words could you offer through your divinity for
Yeah.
my audience?
Yeah. The first thing I just want to express is just profound gratitude to you, Susan, and to the community to the opportunity to have shared this space, to have sunk in, to have connected on this deeper level. And then to remind everyone that we're sitting with here in your beautiful community that a more complete experience of divine presence is always opening up within each of us, within everyone and everything. And when we embody at a deeper level, life shifts from being stuck in what I think of as trauma cycles and drama to a cycle of deepening resonance that is so profound, it's impossible to speak of. And no matter what is unfolding right now for you in your life, that is available to you right now. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Truly, it's an honor.
Thank you so much, Ken. Thank you for bringing your beautiful light, your beautiful energy, and for sharing your message with my community.
It's an honor.
So thank you for listening to this episode of The Spiritual Awakener. I've had a great time. I'm sure you have, listening to Ken and our conversations. Know that within you, you have this incredible light. You have this incredible power to shine your light to the world. Never forget that. No matter what you're going through, always come into your heart. Always remember that you are loved.